right, Sadie. Appreciate you coming on, my man. Something new I'm doing this year. Gonna have some guys on the podcast here. These are guys I worked with last year at CHGO, and wanted to kind of give a perspective to the fans as to what we go through every day, who we are as people, and so just kind of a different way for fans to engage with us. And starting off with you and talking to some other guys, it was cool to see all the guys that want to be part of this. So it should be a lot of fun this upcoming year. But for me, I was so excited when I got the news that we were getting you back for this year for year 19. So kind of wanted to ask you what went all into that. First of all, deciding to come back for another year 19, and then deciding to come back here to Chicago. What were some of the attractions of doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously coming over last year, we had Luke Gessie who was with me in Green Bay, and so he had a big hand in me in getting me here last year, and obviously going through a season where we didn't win as much as we would like, but I felt like there were reasons to come back as far as how we battled, and I think the second half of the year. Kind of opened my eyes, right? Because at any point we could have just tucked it in and was like, forget it. This season is so far gone. Why even come into the building? But it was just the atmosphere, obviously being in the room with you and watching your development over last year. And then obviously our tight end coach, Jim Dre, is amazing. So it's really a no brainer for me. Going into the offseason this year, I already had in my mind that I wanted to, come back for 19. And like you and I have talked before, I'd love to retire after 20. I think that's the magic number right there. And so for me, it was just about getting, staying in shape, cutting down some weight, and then just waiting on that call. And, I turned 40 in May. The Bears didn't have to, sign me in June. They could have waited all the way until August, and so that meant a lot for me, or a lot to me, for them to do that. And you know how it is. I mean, well, actually, you don't. I'm 40, so
Yeah,
it's one of those things where the front office, like, they don't know what they're getting, right? Like, I could have just got fat and didn't care. I mean, they really just offered me blind, and to me that meant a lot based on what I put on film last year, and them understanding the person that I am and how consistent I show up every day, and how much I really love this game. So, and as far as me coming back to Chicago, is really a no-brainer. There's about a handful of teams that reached out, trying to figure out where my thoughts were on continuing to play, or if I was going to hang them up. And my answer to them, and also through my agent, was that Chicago is best case scenario for me. And sooner than later, they ended up hitting me back. And so I'm just excited to be here. Obviously, another year with you, and helping you and being beside you, and your development, and watching you do your thing. It's definitely been a blessing, and one of those memories that I'll keep with me until for the rest of my life. So it's a good thing, me being here, man.
yeah. I mean, I look back on the guys that I've been with, whether it's been with you, with Jimmy, Robert last year, who's gone through things. Ryan Griffin, I don't know if you've ever ran into him, who was with New York and Houston for a while. But just so many different guys that I'm able to pull from, may be able to learn from, and to see the way that all you guys have worked to get where you're at in your career is pretty impressive. Now I can't imagine though you came into this going, I'm playing 20 years of NFL football. So how did that all really like transpire? I know, and we laugh about this and talk about this, but you were my brother and I. You were our first NFL jersey card, Marcedes Lewis rookie card. Yeah, I got to get that on at some point to show. I got to bring it to
Yeah.
show you at some point. But it's crazy to see. Like I remember how young I was when I got that, and now I'm in a room with you, learning all these things from you, and to see your development as a tight end has been pretty crazy too. And I think is the reason why you played so long. When did you notice? Okay, I got to change my game a little bit here. Not as obviously. I don't think you'll take any offense to this, but now not as a receiving threat into a full on, true wide blocker. and
Yep.
I would argue better than some tackles in the NFL. So when did you know you had to evolve from that, from being just that pass catcher into the blocker, and then how did that go into actually developing into that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think so. My last year in Jacksonville, it was my 12th season in 2017. And even coming off my final year in Jacksonville, I still was averaging over 12 yards a catch. I had 5 touchdowns, just under 500 yards. Like I was still doing my thing. Um, but then Jacksonville released me, and I found out on ESPN, which was really crazy.
That's wild.
Um, and so I think that period of time from when I got released in February all the way until maybe right after the draft, I was really contemplating on retirement and, just sorting everything out in my mind because I was really just in shock of the whole thing that, how it went down in Jacksonville. And I remember having a conversation with my mom, just like, man, I think, you know, the family's good. I've had a really good career. Like, I got all the records in Jacksonville. I'm a pillar in the community in Jacksonville. Like I've fulfilled this space in my life as far as playing football went at that time. And my mom was just like, nah, like basically shut all of that down. She was like, do you still feel like you can help a team potentially win a championship? I said, yeah. She was like, do you still feel young and you still feel like you want to, wake up in the morning and go to meetings and be present in those meetings? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, what are you doing? Why are you even thinking like that? And I was like, you know what? I was like, all right, I'll hold off for a second, right? And then so literally 2 weeks after that conversation I had with my mom, Aaron Rodgers called me, and Aaron called me and was like, hey, big dog, like I think you'll be a pivotal piece here. Like, I don't know, what you have going on, but you would be a good fit here. We just got Jimmy Graham. You spoke about him earlier.
Yeah.
We just got Jimmy Graham. Like, I think, this will be a good fit for you. And so I'm like, let me think about it. And obviously I'm like, man, I just played 12 years in Jacksonville. It's 98 degrees daily and humid, right? So to go from that then over to Green Bay where it's freezing cold, this would have been my first experience, like actually like living in that and playing in that, right? A-Rod hit me about 2 or 3 more times. Long story short, I was on a 6 a.m. flight to Green Bay like later that week. And the rest was history. I think my time there kind of helped me gain my love for the game back and kind of put the Jacksonville era kind of like out of my mind, out of sight, out of mind. And I was able to go to Green Bay with a clean slate, with the appetite to learn again and just really become a student again. And I, got my love for the game back. And, the rest was history. I ended up obviously being here, and it's just been amazing being a part of the league since 2006, watching all the ebbs and flows of the league and how much it's changed. Even like blitzes are called different. Plays, like I've had so many coordinators, so many head coaches. Like I've seen so many things that like now when the coordinator is going over install, I'm literally like, I've seen this and it used to be called this. So I literally in my mind I'm
Yeah,
going through like
we were talking about that the other day. That was funny. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm going through like a Rolodex of things like trying to, you know, learn it faster because I've already been through it. It's just, getting the names right. But it's just been a blessing, man. I can't, I like how we talk about it all the time. I'm just very grateful for the opportunity. And I think, this is still part of my purpose, waking up in the morning at 40 years old,
Hmm.
being able to still play at a high level. At some point, I'm not going to be able to do this. It's just not now. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, it's impressive that you're still able to do it the way you do it now at 40, and it's pretty impressive, and it's cool that I think that we have the relationship that we have despite our years of difference, and
yep,
I definitely look at you like as an older brother of some sorts where
no doubt.
I can
Same.
lean on, and yeah, it's been really cool. So, I mean, obviously through the 19 years now you've played, though, you've had to adjust how you go about the off season. I'm sure. I mean, I remember even my first couple years. I was in the weight room right after that season was over, getting ready to go, grinding away, and For me, as a young player, you're always trying to prove yourself, and then at a certain point, you get a little bit more solidified, and you take a step back and maybe evaluate what you need to get done in the offseason, what you need to do, what you don't need to do. So, what are some of those things that maybe I'm getting away with now, or as a mid 20-year old that you're not getting away with as you get into your 30s playing football in the offseason?
Well, I think for one, when I was your age, like I didn't really sleep much. You know what I mean? Like I would go to bed at like 1:30 and be able to wake up and still get after it. Whether it was camp days or during the season, like I could still do that. I think as I got into my latter 20s, it was just more about having a routine. And I think that's where my routine actually started. And I just started building just, a number of modalities of, things that I would have to do in order to be ready and prepared to play a full season. And so at this point in my career now, I don't necessarily touch the field to do field work until the end of May, early July. So from February all the way through May, I've been, training mixed martial arts now for 15 years, and so that's what I kind of lean on to keep me in my best shape as far as like fluid, functional, still strong, but my cardio is through the roof. Like I can still do the things I need to do. And as far as the weight room, is more so based on how my body feels. So I have a thing where at this point in my career, like I don't squat more than 285. I don't bench press more than 275. It's more so just the reps and staying functional and making sure that I can run and I can move. And you know, when you set that goal, then it's like, okay, how are we going to achieve that goal? And then you start adding things to your routine or taking things out of your routine. Like, oh, I didn't feel good doing this. I'm not going to be able to sustain this all the way throughout July before camp starts. And obviously, for everybody, it's going to be a little different. Um, I take care of my body twice as much as I work out. Um, I'm actually I'm part of a company in LA, and we have one in Westwood, two in New York, and then we're building one in Boston now. It's called Remedy Place, and the Remedy Place is a social, like a health and wellness social club, members only type deal, where there's cryo, infrared saunas, cold tubs, physical therapists on site, hyperbaric chambers, medical grade compression boots. And so, literally 5 days to 6 days a week in between my training, before I go home at the end of the night, like I'm in there 2 days or two times a day, right?
So you're
Just
you're doing you're doing all the modalities, like you're
yeah,
doing
everything,
everything in the off season. Yeah,
everything, and then that way, and to be clear, like my in season, how I prepare and take care of my body, it doesn't even change in the off season. It's all the same. My body doesn't go through shock, being like, okay, I'm here during the season and I'm able to have all of this stuff and I can take care of my body. And then after the season, I just drop off. Like I can't afford to do that, and I realized that 10 years ago. And
yeah.
so,
And then
um,
what's like some of the nutrition stuff? Like, do you have any things that you've had to change since the beginning of your career to now? Is nutrition like I know some guys that have no issues with nutrition. They eat whatever they
yeah,
want, and they get in that bod pod. They're 6% body fat all the time, which is
man,
nuts.
I really wish that my genetics were that way. Um, I would say no processed foods, no fried foods, and I try not to eat past 7:30 during the season. And so by the time I'm done eating and I get in bed and wake up in the morning, I have at least 10 to 12 hours of just like full just resetting my system. And so I do that during the season, and I do that also in the off season. And you know, this year or this past off season, like I told you when I came back, I was able to drop off 15 pounds of fat, just
Yeah.
unwanted fat that I don't necessarily need
Hmm.
because I was snacking, right?
Right.
Snacking all the time at night, and I'm just like, yo, I can't. I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do this upcoming season if I continue that. And
Yeah.
so, I think for me, it's just more so being thoughtful as far as my food choices and staying away from the fried foods and processed stuff. I have a nutritionist back at home. It's not crazy strict, but like she's able to give me like little nuggets, and then I just kind of like go and based on what I normally eat and just kind of have it as guidelines. But I try not to go crazy.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So last thing, just kind of wrap things up here. I mean, so talk about your thoughts on the team so far since being back from the off season and the training camp. Now I know obviously you saw the team from last year. I don't know. It feels like we got a lot of juice right now, and we're all really excited about where this could go. But just some of your thoughts on obviously new OC, new quarterback, some new rookies in. What are your thoughts? What are your outlooks on the team? And what are the kind of the steps you think we got to take here before we get to week one?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously last year definitely wasn't the year we anticipated. But like I said, I left last season being optimistic about potentially being back because of what we were going to be looking forward to. Obviously, having some draft picks early in the draft, and them with the acquisitions that they've made so far, the defense turning up the second half of the year and doing what they've done. And I think now where we sit, nobody has to be Superman. If you just go out there and be your personal best every day, we're going to have a good shot to win every single game we step on the field and play. And it's about just staying focused in those moments and continuing to push each other. I think one of the things that have stood out so far during camp is that yes, we're super talented, but we're competitive as shit, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
like that's the difference. And like good teams challenge each other, right? Like practice is harder than games, and that's why obviously it's still early in the year, but in this preseason it hasn't looked like that because we haven't had those type of reps and that type of time on task going against each other. Now we're going against all pros in practice, and so we're getting all the looks that we need in practice. So when a game comes, it's just we're out there just carrying it over, right? And so I'm confident in that. And, basically our preparation and what we're doing in practice is going to get us to where we need to be. And obviously with, Caleb coming in and how he's been able to take this thing by the horns and just be a light, like he's just been super impressive how he carries himself. He's an actual dude. He's not somebody that's arrogant. You can actually have a conversation with him. And he's a guy that wants to be great. He takes coaching, and it's been a joy to watch. And it makes me want to be my best for him so that he's actually able to go out there and really just do his thing. And I think if all of us have that attitude with being just our personal best, it's going to make it easy for this rookie quarterback to come in here and do what he's been used to doing, and that's making plays and scoring touchdowns. And that's what we're going to be about. And I think as long as we keep that mindset of getting 1% better every day and keep challenging each other, we're going to crescendo and peak at the perfect time. And, obviously, just like you, I'm looking forward to week one and actually game planning and tightening up these nuts and bolts and getting after it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it all. We got a lot of work still ahead, but I appreciate you hopping on, and I'll see you out at this barbecue.
No doubt, bro. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Yep.
Thanks.